it's real privilege and honor to be here. Lisa has told me so much about this group and the collaborativeness, which I just like. You see folks from different industries, folks I recognize here. You've got folks from the deck side of things. You've got folks from the ESM side, practitioners sharing knowledge, and I just love that. And Rocky McGuire knows I like saying better together at least once a week. Hey, Rocky, good to see you again, man.
Weston, it's so good to see your smile and your beard.
Yeah, kind of catching up to you, Rocky, right? Yeah. So I do have a few slides that might be helpful, but I know this is more of a conversation. The I think Lisa, what you asked me to do is share what was our XLA journey, how we get started. I mean, we started like 10 years ago. We didn't know what an XLA was. We knew it was important to start measuring experience. And so we had started with a company that provides a product called Eternity. We tried and struggled with them. We really had a hard time, and I'm not going to, it's nothing bad about the tool itself, although it's not ranked nearly as high as NextThink in the Magic Quadrant there, John. But the problem we had was mostly with where do we do with this? We're collecting this data. It's producing a score essentially of experience, but it's like, it's kind of like, so what? What the score is 6, and then it's 6.2, it goes 5.8. Is that bad? Is that good? I don't know. And not only that, there really wasn't a group of people to look at that and then act on it, which I think that's the thing, is you have to get all the way to acting on it. And so it was around the pandemic time, Lisa, we sat down with you and your folks, and you educated us on you helped us spell XLA first of all, and then and realize it's not just taking the S off of SLA and replacing it with an X, but there was a need for we had to organize differently. And you helped us spell XMO. That was the other thing that was necessary, a group. And I do have a slide on this. I'm just going to go ahead and flash this up here. I think that will be helpful. Now, let's see, I'm in Teams every minute of the day. Now I got to go figure out how to share properly without embarrassing myself too badly. And that should be visible. Oh, one more click, right? One more
Yep.
click.
There you go.
Got it. So we realized we're a managed service provider, right? So we realized in providing service desk and field service and endpoint to our customers that we're doing what they ask, but we're also letting a lot of data fall on the floor. Most of the data historically we look at in service desk is what? It's the ticket data. What are your top 10 call drivers? And we're not saying don't do that. That's important. But for one thing, you're only seeing the people that call in. There's that Vance and Bourne study that Alan Nance quotes a gazillion times that says 6 out of 10 people don't call the service desk. They're the people suffering in silence. And so if I'm only looking at 40% of the data with the ticket data, is that really giving me a picture of what's actually going on in the environment? Well, the answer is obviously no. So this is where a DEX platform is so powerful in being able to complement what's going on with what you're doing with your ticket data. And then if you can correlate that, and even correlate it further, and I'll show you what I mean by that, with other sources of data like HR data, regional data, and then even go beyond the PC, really some really powerful things can happen. And that's been our journey. So I'll kind of walk you through that. So, historically, this is where we were. Like, we were just collecting basically PC happiness and people happiness, right? And saying this is our score, and then not knowing what to do with it. We realized there's so much more data, and back then we were, all in the pandemic, we were spending all of our time in front of Zoom and Teams instead of 99% like we do now. And we realized we needed to collect UC happiness as well. And at the time, the DEX tools weren't doing that, but they are now, which is really awesome. And all of that comes together. It's not just the device, but it's the apps you're using and things like that. But then here's the missing ingredient. We didn't have this XMO, which I'm now saying is augmented with AI. And will be augmented more and more with AI, especially as you add more data. It's just becoming too much for humans to correlate and to sift through all that data. You need AI to help you manage this additional data that you're bringing in. But we didn't have AI at first, right? So for the last several years, we deployed this XMO. It's a separate organization that Lisa taught us to put in place outside of the service desk and outside of endpoint management, which is where we tried to do this before. We put the DEX tool in front of those folks, and they were still being measured on average handle time and for first call fix and things. And so they weren't really being proactive. They would use the data and the tools to fix Weston's problem, but not the 5,000 Westons that also have the same problem that didn't call in. And that's where the XMO comes into play, where they're looking at this data and then taking action, because this is where the rubber hits the road, right? If I don't do something with all this data and improve the experience, it's just another dashboard, another score that gets discarded after a while. It's like, why am I even looking at this? This isn't helping me. I'm paying for this and it's not getting value. And I'm sure, John, you've experienced that a gazillion times, right? In helping your customers to recognize you not only have to have the platform there, but a group of people looking at it, analyzing it, and lastly, taking action, right? And of course, we're moving now to the world where some of those actions can be taken automatically, and have AI help with it too. Agentic AI is the latest AI buzzword. So how does that play in? But that's part of the roadmap as well. So the other thing that we realized is we can also provide feedback to the organization about what's going on with their people. We stopped looking at just the devices. That was, XLA 1.0. XLA 2.0 was now rolling in the idea of a persona. So slicing and dicing by groups of people. And I'll give you an example of how that turned out to be super powerful. I've got a client example I can share with you about that, where we've masked the client and everything, but you can see the results of what it means to look at the results of the people. The other thing is, if you can tie your XLAs, or let's just forget XLA and just say employee experience, to other business initiatives you have going on, like, if you're a sales organization, you probably have a customer experience program. It's not managed by IT though, is it? That's the sales organization. Your commercial group is paying attention to customer experience. If you can show how your employee experience that you're improving can have an impact on customer experience, that eliminates the question about value. To when you're having this conversation about needing to implement this and roll out XLAs and have a DEX platform and things like that, to me, this is where all of a sudden all the leaders of the company start getting it. Or if maybe there's an HR program, right, where they're concerned about ability to hire people, or retention. If you can show how, and this was a lot easier, showing how your employee experience from the IT perspective is going to help with the HR hiring, that I give a great IT experience to my employees. They have a good device, they get great support, they're able to do their job, I give them the tools they need, they're not down. Then that's one less reason for a person to want to leave, to go to another company. We've had an example of one of our customers who went through a merger, and we were already doing experience management with them and measuring XLAs. And during the merger, the question came up, well, what about this other company? Because what happens with a merger? You've got company A buying company B, or they're coming together. They typically have different tool sets a lot of times, right? One of them's on, I don't know, Freshworks. The other one's on Remedy or Helix, and the other one's on ServiceNow. And the money pinchers at the top go, hey, we should just have one tool, which makes sense. So they're going to consolidate the tools. And it's not just with the ITSM platform. It might be with the endpoint management. It might be, with HR tools, ERP tools, whatever. When you do this merger, you're often going to try to save money by consolidating. That means if it's a 50-50 merger, half of the people have to change what they're doing. And they're not thrilled with that, right? It's like, I knew how to do my job, and now because of this merger, I'm having to now learn another tool. So what we thought would be great is, could we measure the experience of the employees in company A and compare that with the experience in company B, and see if, where the gaps are, and be able to show that to the customer so that they could see how well the merger is doing. And by the way, this illustrates something that Alan Nance has talked about before as well, is that SLAs, we keep them around forever, 20, 30 years, pretty much unchanged. XLAs have a shorter lifespan, and that's a perfect example. If I set up an XLA that is just specifically going to measure the experience during a merger, I don't need to keep it once the merger's done, right? You discard it. It's served its purpose. And that's a kind of a change in mindset for operational folks as well, is that XLAs don't necessarily have to stay around forever, that they should evolve over time. And especially if you're tying them to specific business initiatives that have a certain life cycle here. So I'm sharing with you quite a few of our aha moments, that folks like Lisa helped us understand the need of an XMO, the idea that there's more than one source of data that we should be collecting and putting together and aggregating. And the more you do that, the more you can correlate that, the cooler insights you're going to find. And then the last one was, let's not just make this another dashboard. Let's work to integrate it and connect it with actual business initiatives that are going on. So I'll pause there. Any reaction or comments on that? I've got a couple of client examples I'd like to share with you as well.
I just love the point that you made around how XLAs don't have to, it's not a contract that needs to be in place. It can be something that is individual, like around a project or an initiative. That is massive. We never had SLAs around those things. And a lot of times we weren't even doing surveys or like voice of the customer programs to figure out if that was all going well. And I also love this one quote. I wrote it down. One less reason to leave.
Yeah, from the HR point of view. Yeah. And actually, Matt, that leads in kind of well for the client example. This is a customer of ours that when we started doing business with them, we said, what's your business goals? Let's take a step back. We know you've told us what you want us to do from an IT perspective, but what are your business goals? And they said, we really are looking for growth over the next several years. And we said, okay, great. What roles in your company are contributing the most, are key to that growth? And they make household appliances, and they says, they thought about it for a minute. You know what? It's our research engineers, the people that are developing the brand new products, because that's what differentiates us in the market is our products. So if IT problems are causing an engineer to have downtime, there's two bad things that can happen. One is if they get frustrated enough and they're constantly being called by competitors, oh, come work for us. They go, okay, the pay and all that other issue, those are issues as well. But if the IT is not working and it's not letting them do their job, it's just frustrating. They said, you know what? I think that might be the straw that broke the camel's back. That's when it's going to cause me to leave. And when they leave, they're taking that intellectual property with them. You can't erase what's in their brains, at least not yet, I don't think. And as a result of that, there's a big concern about losing these key employees. The other is, even if they don't leave, their downtime. Every hour that they're not inventing the next new cool thing, I don't know, the robot that mows your lawn and washes your car at the same time, whatever it is they're working on, that product gets delayed to market and it's future revenue. So they could really connect it with that. We were looking at a pharmaceutical, and we recognized that, let's say there's 4 hours that we're going to give back per month to employees. There's a big difference between 4 hours we give back to someone in HR. What's the loss to that? It's like, well, somebody's performance review gets delayed a little bit. It's the cost of what we're paying them per hour, right? Times 4 hours. 4 hours lost in the research scientist space. Again, exactly like the same thing as here, is they're delaying, they're coming up with the next new cure for cancer, whatever. That gets delayed to market, and maybe someone even beats them. That's the worst thing. Someone beats them to market, and they lose the ability to patent and things like that. That's big money, right? If they're also having a pill production line, if there's 4 hours lost by the management or the people that are overseeing the pill production line, the manufacturing process, they know those numbers about every minute, how many thousands of dollars they lose that the pill production line or any manufacturing line is down. So this is an example of taking the additional data, slicing and dicing by persona, and having your XLAs. You don't have to have an XLA for every single person, but keep key roles in your organization and measure the experience, because you can very quickly tie value, the time you're giving back to them, to leaders in the company. So as an example here, over the course of the year, saving about 9,800 hours, and this is data that we're able to get from the DEX tool, being able to see what's going on with them, with the end users, and the proactively fixing and solving their problems. HR was happy about the time we were saving on onboarding, which they wanted an XLA for a business process. Okay, let's have a XLA measuring your onboarding process here. And the PC refresh. In fact, I'm just going to jump to that one here. This is combining the roles. So here's the roles in the organization. RDD is actually the research engineers. And then this is the data that we get from the DEX tool to let us see the reliability of the devices. Because normally when you do a PC refresh, it's done based on calendar, right? You're like at a 3-year warranty or a 4-year warranty. And if let's say 4 years, so every year you replace 25%, and that's a rolling window. And it's just a machine, right? We just crank out those devices, swap them out. There's no thought given to, well, at the end of the 4 years, is that PC still working perfectly fine? Could I keep it longer? And the reason we don't do that is because we're worried about, the longer you keep a machine, the more likely it is to break, right? So we don't want to have people have downtime. But if we've got a great monitoring going on here, all these devices in blue, they may be at end of warranty, but guess what? They're running perfectly fine. So we suggested to them, how about if we tell you when to replace the devices? So there's about 5,000 devices here that they could keep longer. So it's not hard for you to do the math on this, right? 5,000 devices and do it month by month. If I keep it 1 month longer, how much am I saving? 2 months, how much am I saving? 3 months, how much am I saving? And that goes into your green report as well, right? Your sustainability report. Now, the flip side is this. Remember I said their research engineers were the most important people? Who had the most problems? There was like 300 machines that they should have, even though they're maybe still under warranty, that should have been replaced because they're continually having problems. Procurement loved this data too, because when we shared that with them, there was a particular device that from one OEM vendor that had the most problems, like by far. And so they were now armed to go to the vendor and say, you kind of sold us a lemon here. You better do something about this. And so they're able to renegotiate, and there's savings in the renegotiation of this, that help them, in getting replacement devices cheaper. So I love this example because it really does show you can take experience data, and it's not just some fuzzy happiness dashboardy thing. If you do this right, it can result in actual business value, big business value to your customers. So again, I'll pause on here before I get into XLA 3.0.
I think my question, if no one else has a question, is can you go back and explain the key roles thing just a little bit better? Like, I know that they're saying the engineers are the most important, but like how do they do that? Like, how do they know that they're the most important? Do you just is it the 5 whys? Are you just continue to drill down?
We've had what we call a persona workshop we've had for a while. We didn't originally do it for experience. We did it for, helping to figure out, well, are you a remote user? Are you a hybrid worker? Should you get do you need a smartphone? Do you need a tablet? Should you even run Windows? Should you be running Chrome? Or if everything you're doing is SaaS, do you just really need a smart browser, right? BYO, is there a certain role where they should be, bring, like contractors, bring in their own device and we give them a virtual desktop to log into? So that was why we originally did the persona workshop. But we realized the persona workshop also could help give you some categories. Now we're not the experts into which of those categories are having the biggest impact on the business. That's a business question, right? So it's a conversation, Matt, with in our case, we're a service provider. If you're internal to the company, I would imagine, if this is something you're doing for your own, internally in your company, you would know more about, what your business does. Are you an airline? Are you a bank? Are you a hospital? Okay, healthcare providers for the hospital. Airline, it's the flight crew and the gate agents that are really making sure that the business runs properly, and I want to measure their experience. So it's a collaborative effort to come up with that. Does that help, Matt, or did I go off?
Yeah, I think so. There? Like, I think in a lot of situations, like airlines is a perfect example. Who's more important, the pilots or the gate agents? And it's not like you may not find the one. There may not be one choke point. It's multiple choke points, right?
For sure. Yeah, I love that you brought that up as an example, because we asked Gartner, says, give us an example of where they've implemented an XLA across the board for everything, where every one of their managed service providers participated in it, because we just didn't think it existed. They gave us the example of Qantas. So it's not our client, but what they did with Qantas, what Qantas did is they said, our XLA is very simple. It's going to be on time flight departure. I mean, there's other things they could have measured, revenue and how many seats we're filling and all that, but they said, no, that's what we're going to do. And then they told all of they had three major service providers. So IT, cloud, and security, maybe network. I don't remember what the third one was. And they all have different levels of business. Let's say it's 40%, 30%, 15, that probably doesn't add up to 100, but roughly, those numbers. And they said, if we meet these XLAs, then you all, get the money that we promised plus a bump, if it improves. If it declines, then everybody gets penalized according to the percentage of revenue that we're giving you, of money we're giving you. So I've only heard of that being done to that level where they did it for the whole company and everything in one place like that. But that seems like a real, if you get to that level, that's probably a nirvana.
I love that John put it in the chat, better together.
Oh, I'm not seeing the chat. Let me bring that up.
Did someone come off mute? We're getting an echo now. Oh, there you go, Simone. Thank you.
I'm going to take that breathing space to say I'm going to drop in like 2 minutes.
Hey, Lisa.
Updated image, Rocky. I got you and Lucy. See if anyone can figure out who Lucy is. And yeah, I will see you guys next Friday. Weston, I'm sorry I have to leave.
No problem, Lisa. Yeah,
I love the way your brain works, as you know.
Client stuff always.
Hey, Lisa, have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Bye, Lisa.
Right. And yeah, I see the better together. Thanks, John. Thanks for the shout out on that. Well, I'm going to switch over to this idea of XLA 3.0. This is something that so Simon Wilson on my team and Vijay Guru, who runs the XMO, presented at the XLA Institute just a month or so ago. This idea of, not to denigrate the DEX tools. They are absolutely essential. In my mind, you cannot do this without them. But we see, and John, you've probably seen this as well, where people don't deploy it well, right? They deploy it, they get the score, and they think that's it. I'm done with my XLA, and they're not either taking action on it. That's kind of like what we call XLA 1.0, because it happens a lot, right? And that's not saying it's the right thing, but if you do it right, you add in personas, and maybe you merge in additional data like this HR data, and we encourage even pulling in ticket data as well. Looking at that. Asset data is also useful. Slicing and dicing by region, or if you're a large company, by even office or region or country or office or your business unit, things like that. But this last year we were thinking about what's next, where are we going next, and we thought about this, that a lot of this. So if we're focusing on the people or the device and then the people. Nicole, you just said something about return to office coming your way, right? I think it was you that mentioned that. That's where we're thinking, oh my goodness, there's a lot of focus on that. So we started looking a lot at what's going on in the office. Many real estate, like our company too, we shrunk our real estate, and now we're saying people have to come back, and there's all kinds of challenges with experience in the return to the office. So in our mind, XLA 3.0 is looking at an ecosystem. It can be an office. It can be a fast food restaurant. It can be a crash cart at a hospital. It's a set of multiple devices and things that just has to work, but nobody owns, right? It's like it moves around and it has its own experience that has life or death consequences, right? In return to the office, there's all of this additional data. So John, I'm looking forward to seeing, next thing, tapping into some of this, the IoT sensors and things going beyond the PC, right? If you look at a smart building, you've got air quality sensors. I've got sensors for occupancy. If I've got a smart meeting room, there's all kinds of smart meeting room data coming off. What's the quality? Like here we are in Zoom. What's the quality of the video? What's the quality of the audio? Is anybody getting disconnected? How many people are in the room? In any usage, what rooms are being used, what office is being used. If you've got hoteling systems, you're going to have data on what's the demand for the hoteling cubes, what's the demand for your cafeteria. I was talking to the CIO of Synchrony Bank the other day, and he says, yeah, return to office. I asked this question, how's return to office going? And he says, my biggest problem is finding a parking spot and finding a table in the cafeteria at lunchtime, because of the shrinking of the office, but now the increased demand of people coming in. So what we're suggesting is, hey, there's all this additional data. Let's bring this physical workplace, the digital workplace, bring it together. And it's really if we can combine it all together in this return to the office, there's this whole workplace experience insights. As I said earlier, if I don't get to some insight or some action I can take with this, it's just another dashboard. But here is a lot of things that we can make use of. Rich Owen on my team was talking with a company in the UK, and they were saying what they thought they would. One of the interesting things was planning for the amount of food that the cafeteria, or the canteen, as he calls it there, would be needed. And has it changed from Monday through Friday? Is it midweek the big number? Having data like that would help in reducing efficiency and waste. Another organization was saying, well, I've got multiple floors. Maybe we, instead of having 5 people on floor 3 and 10 on 2, can we at certain days like Fridays, we'll just close floor 3 and only floor 2 is available. Just making decisions like that can help with the experience. And it like with you, Nicole, you're worried about coming back. Will I have a spot? Will there be a room for me? This is where I'm thinking XLA 3.0 can help in monitoring the data and sharing it with others. So I'm going to turn off slides at this point here. Oh, I found them a little bit helpful to kind of give a little background, but I'm open for any discussion or feedback or thoughts you have on what I've said so far.